Detroit Lions 31, Tampa Bay Bucks 23. The Lions move to the NFC Championship. Detroit Lions are one game away from the Super Bowl here, Sam.
Mm-hmm.
This was another good game, back and forth. Anytime you have, these were touchdown plus underdogs pretty much. Bucks were 6.5-point underdogs. So from Houston standpoint, Green Bay standpoint, Tampa Bay, they're all underdogs on the road. You need things to go well for you. You need breaks or whatever it might be. And the Bucks kept hanging tough. They were in this. It got to 17-17 at the half. Lions started pulling away, but the Bucks got within a score. Eventually, Baker Mayfield also throws a game-ending interception like Jordan Love, and the Lions seal the deal to go to the NFC Championship.
Yeah, Lions, I think, played well enough to get it done. Yeah, the Bucs were able to hang tough despite consistently making the kind of mistakes that just made it difficult to do that, and eventually one too many mistakes cost them the game. But Mike Evans drops the pass early on, becomes an interception. Goff throws to Jamel Dean in the end zone. What should have been a turnover, should have been an interception, drops that interception. You get the Baker turnover late in the game that costs them. Like, they just made too many mistakes to eventually be able to overcome and get the win. And you can't do that if you're a touchdown underdog or whatever. You need to make fewer mistakes than the opposition, more than likely, if you're going to win the game. And Green Bay didn't. Tampa Bay didn't, and each one of these teams just couldn't get out of their own way enough to make it happen.
Yeah, I thought so. Jared Goff early on, I thought he played a pretty good game. Other than that one, I don't even think it was a bad decision in the end zone. He just missed the throw. He kind of lofted it up and just missed it short. And Dean drops the interception. That was a huge play in the game. Ended up just being a field goal opportunity for the Lions. So that cost the Bucs 3 points there. I thought on the other side, one of the biggest plays of the game was the Lions. I mean, momentum is such an overused term. I think momentum is really just, good football plays, and you want to have more good ones than bad ones. Amon-Ra St. Brown drops an open 3rd and 9, 3rd and 10 over the middle of the field because the Lions, every time the Bucs would push back, the Lions generally came back and did a nice job, except for this middle of the game. St. Brown drops the ball over the middle, and it really kept the Bucs in the game. That was the Lions' offense had a lot of success, but that was a huge play, and that was a big part of the Bucs' comeback there. Mike Evans made up for the early drops. Baker flips the field with 2 downfield passes to Evans. One of them was outstanding, and I thought the broadcast did a nice job of saying, as soon as they're getting single coverage, as soon as they rolled a single high, you got to use the fist, right? Yeah. Rolled a single high. As soon as the Lions rolled a single high, Baker and Evans, boom, they're like, we're taking the shot. And Baker just lofted it up there. Evans is so good at tracking the ball, makes the sliding catch. That set up their score just before the half. The Bucs needed those shot plays. They weren't taking them the entire game, but they needed a few of those to get on the board.
Yeah, I mean, the Lions were the better team basically throughout the game, but the Bucs were able to execute sort of 1.5 comebacks. The first comeback was they only needed the 1 touchdown drive to get back into it in the first half, where it was just before halftime. Baker was fantastic on that drive. I mean, he had a big rush to make a play. He then had that quick pass against that kind of cover 2 look, and then the one you're talking about where they rotated the safeties and they just took the instant shot that got them to the 2-yard line, and then a really nice pass with some touch in the end zone on that kind of pick play that they got away with. They judged to be legal, however you want to describe that. And now you're 10-10 at the half. So, the Lions have been the better team, I think, in the first half, and then one drive by Baker and the Bucs, and they're able to go in tied up. Then it gets away from them in the second half, and they almost attempt to come back again. They get a shot at it, and then Baker throws the game loser.
A couple key plays in this. So the mistakes that the Bucs made, some of the mistakes that they made were just in pass protection breakdowns.
They could never see defensive bank blitz coming ever,
right,
in the entire game.
And so, just so we're clear, unblocked defenders are often by design, right? And so you say the quarterback's hot off of that guy. So if he blitzes, you have an answer generally behind him you'll have somebody running a shorter route so you can get the ball out of your hands.
6 times in this game, there was unblocked pressure on Baker Mayfield. Jared Goff, facing the crazy blitz-happy Tampa Bay defense, had unblocked pressure once.
Yeah. And so those are tough. Like, I thought, I want to explain, like, the Rachaad White touchdown I thought was all Dave Canales, the offensive coordinator for the Bucs. So I don't know if this was scheme, if it was at the line of scrimmage, if Baker Mayfield was not setting protection properly. Sometimes it's the offensive line and their adjustment. There was definitely one. Aiden Hutchinson had the unblocked sack where it looked like Luke Gedeke just blew either the snap count or it looked like he was supposed to be blocked. But listen, sometimes your protection will leave the best rusher unblocked, and that's okay oftentimes because you probably have a quick answer to get rid of the ball, and it doesn't really matter that an Aiden Hutchinson is left unblocked. This particular one, Hutchinson got the sack, but these plays were knocking the Bucs out of field goal range. Like, they were key plays oftentimes. So the protection was getting broken down pretty badly by this Lions defense.
And it's only okay when the quarterback knows it's coming.
Right, of course.
Generally speaking, sometimes you leave a rusher open by design, but the quarterback knows who it is and understands it's coming and knows to get rid of the ball quickly. These ones, they were leaving unblocked rushers, and the quarterback never seemed to see it until he arrived in his lap, at which point it's too late to do anything about it. That was the confusing part about it.
So that was a big part, and I thought that all set up the reason why I think the Bucs were in the game late in the third quarter. By the way, a 2-play sequence here that was massive. On whatever the previous down was, second down I think. Baker rolls out and he throws the ball away, and his shin was down as he throws it away. Mm-hmm. The refs call it incomplete. It was very close. I think when you freeze frame the replay, he absolutely was down. Probably would have lost 5-6 yards, whatever it was. It would have made it about third and 15, 16, 17. And the Lions did not challenge the play. I don't know what your thoughts are. I kind of don't blame them for not challenging there, because timeouts in the second half are so important. Challenges are so important. And you're kind of at the mercy of the officials getting this right in overturning a play. I think it was pretty clear that Baker was down.
And also how quickly you get the replays of it.
Right.
It seemed like that one didn't get a clear replay of it for a while, at which point they kind of would have been throwing the flag blind, assuming that it was right or not. Like, there was a play in the Ravens game where clearly somebody told John Harbaugh to throw the challenge flag, and then as soon as the first replay came out, it's like it wasn't even close. And Harbaugh was pissed off. You're like, somebody told him to throw that flag.
It wasn't even close at all.
Based off clearly some weird angle that they saw. They're like, oh, it's definitely a fumble. Throw it. And then the first thing he sees of it, he's like, what are you doing? That's not even close to being a fumble.
So, and so then the very next play, in a game where it was a fun battle, man, between Lions defensive coordinator Aaron Glenn, Bucs offensive coordinator Dave Canales. Again, both coordinators are candidates for head coaching jobs. They've had interviews, and the Lions pressure packages had been killing the Bucs. And for like the third or fourth time this season, Dave Canales calls a screen at the perfect time. How many screen passes have the Bucs had to Rachaad White where he's just got green in front of him? And that was this. That was a 17-yard touchdown, was it? 12-yard touchdown at the end of the third quarter to tie the game at 17. Just a beautiful play call because, again, the screen, you're inviting the pressure, dumping the ball off, blockers in front, Rachaad White walks in for a 12-yard touchdown to tie the game. It was a great call. And it does feel like, look, the Lions are a really good team. The secondary, when they did man up, when they are in single coverage, Cameron Sutton, I think, is a very good corner, but more in the zone-heavy type of scheme. I like Cam Sutton because he's pretty good outside. He's pretty good in the slot. He has that versatility. He just can't match up with some of the better receivers one-on-one. The Lions feel limited on the back end, and you saw that at times in this game. But this was a great call by Canales to get the Bucs right back in it and tie the game late third quarter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Canales has been fantastic this season.
And then Jahmyr Gibbs in the fourth quarter, 31-yard touchdown, justifying the pick. I mean, look, the Lions draft class has been fantastic. Sam Laporta, he had 9 catches for 65 yards. Brian Branch,
despite clearly not being 100%
yet. Still playing hurt. Brian Branch playing great football as a slot safety hybrid. And Jahmyr Gibbs has been an incredible playmaker for this offense.
Yeah, he has. I mean, this is a great offense generally across the board. Gibbs is a perfect fit for it right now. He's the perfect fit for today's NFL, which is skewing towards, fast, explosive running backs that can turn any crease into a bigger play. I think, if you're going to have a nuanced conversation about the 12th overall pick, you can separate the player from the value, which is the whole purpose all the way along. Like, Jahmyr Gibbs can be an incredible player and also not be the pick at 12.
Yeah.
Right pick at 12.
I mean, not to get too far into it, I think you can. So the running back first round thing is probably overrated, because if you do make that pick, it's not like, okay, well, the rosters, everything about the roster is going to be bad now, right? It's not like that extreme. The other part of it is they had 4 picks in the top 45 or 50 or whatever it was, 55 picks. That's another element to that. It's not your only, like with the Steelers picking Najee Harris, and it was like, Najee, go fix the run game. We don't have great offensive linemen. We don't have a bunch of other stuff, but go fix the run game. Jahmyr Gibbs gets added to this team, and I think they've done it the right way, as I said, all season. They don't just give him 25 carries to justify it. They use him in the right role to create explosive plays, which he's doing, as a complement to other guys that are getting explosive plays. So I think all of that adds up. The other part of it is the running back in the first round thing, it doesn't always necessarily come back to bite in year 1. It's year 3 or 4 when he's getting paid more, and it hinders other team building decisions.
But it's simply a value proposition as well. Like so Jahmyr Gibbs is fantastic. He's been great in this offense. On the other hand, has there been a discernible difference between Jahmyr Gibbs and the Devon Achane, who was in the 3rd round, and Keaton Mitchell, who was undrafted? Those are essentially the three players, without getting too simplistic and too reductive about it. Those are effectively the same guy 3 times over. One of them was the 12th overall pick. One of them was a 3rd rounder, and one of them was undrafted, right? So the point being, with running backs, one of the reasons you don't draft them at the top of the draft is because you can find those guys later on, particularly if you are looking for a very specific skill set. Meanwhile, there are other positions where that is not true, right? Kalijah Kancey, for example, who was a big impact player in this game, you don't find like impact 3-tech pass rushing interior players all the way throughout the draft. Like, who was the 3rd and the 7th round equivalent of Kalijah Kancey? Now, the 3rd round, you got Kobe Turner. The 7th round, the undrafted, I don't think there is one this year. So one of the players they could have had instead of Jahmyr Gibbs is a Kalijah Kancey, for example. I'm just saying, we can separate, is Jahmyr Gibbs great? Yes. From, was it the right pick at 12? More debatable.
Yeah, that's all. And I think when he becomes one of the top 5 or 6 highest paid running backs on his rookie contract, I think if it's going to come back to bite, it would be then. Lions fans don't care right now. I mean, he's awesome. He's fun to watch.
And that's the thing.
He's a big part of this team right now.
Yes.
With a good offensive line, with playmakers on the outside, in the slot, at tight end, and then he gets to be the other playmaker to keep the defense off balance. It's a good fit for what the Lions are doing right now.
Right, and it's why it's just a waste of time for everyone to be like, you guys said it wasn't a good pick. It's pointless. Like, it doesn't matter if it's a good pick or not. They did it. He's an amazing player for them right now, and there is no like alternative world where you get to compare the two. So what's the point?
And this is the way to use him, man. 74 yards on 9 carries, including that 31-yarder, which became the game winner officially. Plus 4 catches for 40 yards out of the backfield. Adds a dynamic element to this offense. So the Lions started to pull away. They get up 31-17.
Looked done.
It looked like the game was over. But again, Baker Mayfield and the Bucs came back. Baker with a big-time throw to Mike Evans for a 16-yard touchdown. And then, of course, they're down 8. And go for 2, Sam. Mm-hmm. I thought Chris did a good job of quickly explaining that. You don't have a lot of time on the broadcast.
That was the cleanest explanation of that I've heard any announcer make, I think.
He had a little extra time, too, because they came out of the break, and he said, let me just reiterate, here's why. It involves 2-point conversions being a better than 50-50 proposition across the league, and also extra points being less than 100% proposition across the league because they've been pushed back. And then They did run a fade to Mike Evans, which which historically is about a 33% proposition. Now, I will say Brady to Evans fades in their 3 years together was 70%. So just throwing that out there. The Evans fade, if you look at it through the lens of does the Evans fade work, it does. When Brady was thrown to him, they were about 70%. I don't know what the Mayfield number is. I don't know how many they threw this year. But that one was underthrown, falls incomplete. Bucs were still down 8, and then on their final drive. Great play by Derek Barnes to pick off Baker Mayfield to end the game.
Yeah. And just a bad throw by Baker. I mean, it was a throw that I think was on, and he just missed it. Again, similar to the Jordan Love tipped interception thing. It was a throw that was there to be made, and he was just inaccurate with it. This was this one where there was a guy late just flashed into his way and maybe disrupted it? Either way, just a miss with the throw, and unfortunately ends the game. Yeah. The other element about the 2-point thing, though, that he described really well is it effectively changes. So you're down 2 touchdowns, you need both of them, and then if you kick the extra point first, you then get to decide one play, take it or leave it. Do you want to win the game or just take it to overtime, right? And the overtime is not a 100% proposition, it's 92 or whatever it is. So that's your decision. Whereas if you go for 2 early, now you can still get back to overtime by getting 2 the second time, which is a better than 50-50 proposition, or you then get a choice to just win the game with your 92% kick proposition. That's a better dynamic than let's take the kick and then we still then need to get put to a choice of do you want to take a risk and win the game or not. You take the risk first, and then you still can get back to the same dynamic that you were before with a better mathematical proposition than if you were just going for it in the first place.
Yeah, and just like just like the Gibbs and drafting a running back at 12, these are like percentage point differences of good, bad, and different that you might never even feel it, right? The Lions might never even feel the Gibbs decision. Usually when you're down 8, making this decision late in the game, you're not even going to feel it either way. It's not going to matter. In this case, in the game, it didn't really matter.
But this is one of the few. So a lot of these ones we keep sort of saying, remember, the thing about it, it's never a yes. It's never a hard yes or a hard no. It's stealing percentage points here or there. This is one of the few where it's just always mathematically, it's always correct to go for it first. Always. Now, it doesn't mean it'll go in your favor. You might run the fade play and then have just torched it for nothing, right?
It's a couple percentage
it's execution,
points. Yeah.
But like you are always better off going for it the first time than not.
So obviously the Bucs they're still down 8. They didn't have a lot of time left. What was there, a minute to try to make that last ditch effort? 1 minute with I think one timeout to try to get the touchdown and the 2-point conversion, and they fell short. Lions defense back last 2 weeks. Again, I think there were some holes on the back end. If they're not getting pressure up front.
2 minutes.
They had 2 minutes. Yeah, that's right. It was right at the 2-minute warning. Lions defense, I think, has some holes on the back end, but they've done a nice job overall. They cracked down in the red zone last week.
They were very aggressive in this game. They matched essentially the blitz-happy Bucs defense in blitz rate. They sent this, and they had more success in terms of dialing up those unblocked rushers. So
feels like those game plans are just magnified in the playoffs, and if something's not working, having to be able to adjust. I mean, Romo was pointing that out in the Chiefs-Bills game. It's like both quarterbacks were generally playing pretty good. Playing pretty well? Who's going to make that adjustment? Are you going to attack Mahomes? Are you going to change things up? The Lions were very aggressive in this game, putting the pressure. Say, hey, go make those downfield throws. And a few times the Bucs made them. Other times they just busted the Bucs pass protection, as we talked about earlier. What else you got on this game?
That's it.
That's it.
This was sort of almost the reverse of the Brock Purdy conversation for Baker Mayfield, right? Where he actually played pretty well over the course of the game. He executed one comeback at the end of the first half, almost executed the second one, and then ultimately threw a bad pass that cost him the game. It's like, what do you do with that as an overall analysis? Baker ends up, you sort of do, and then you do the Jordan Love retrospective of, Baker's season. Enters the year as damaged goods, a broken shell of a quarterback earning $4 million, which is like not good backup money to steer the ship for a year in this weird transition hedge that the Bucs are attempting. gets into the playoffs, wins a playoff game, and does a really good job of almost, keeping them in a game against a better team, and then ultimately costs them the game. Overall, I think a very successful year for him. He ends up earning something like $6.8 million because of the bonuses and blah, blah, blah. Like, got a bonus for winning a playoff game, got a bonus for playing time, got a bonus for something else. So ends up getting like 6.8, which is still like a freaking bargain for a starting quarterback that played pretty well for most of the year, and presumably has earned himself a decent contract now, albeit probably still not. He's probably still down net on the contract he was expected to get from the Browns until they told him to go out there and play with a broken shoulder and then gave his job to somebody else. It was
a huge year for Mayfield. He's a free agent. Mike Evans is a free agent. They sounded like they both want to be back. Evans, they cut off talks with the Bucs, and I think he'd love to be a Buck for life. But we'll see. I mean, I wasn't expecting that coming into the season, that the Bucs were just going to look to run it back with Baker Mayfield. But I think it's more likely, far more likely now, that they do the Geno Smith type of contract, and there's their quarterback, and they'll have a little bit more cap flexibility heading into next year too. So, good season by the Bucs. Also, I want to shout out the Lions' offensive line. Penei Sewell, another monster game for him. His block on Jahmyr Gibbs' 31-yarder. Director of Analysis Ben Stockwell pointed out, incredible reach block to help create that hole for Jahmyr Gibbs. And Frank Ragnow playing through his injury, and just he played well. Taylor Decker played well. The Lions' offensive line, which has been one of the best in the league, really stepped up and did what they've done all season.
Yeah, Ragnow battling through injury.
With Jonah Jackson at left guard, he got hurt, missed most of the game. Ragnow playing through the injury. And like you mentioned, Kalijah Kancey, he did have a great, huge sack in this game, but he's been getting beat up in the run game. He got beat up on one of the touchdown runs there as well.
And Vita Vea had his standard, 2 to 3 plays in the game where he just ragdolls the dude in front of him, and then what happened the rest of them? Why? I don't get it. Why is Vita Vea not the best defensive lineman in the NFL? Makes no sense.
Maybe it's just an endurance thing.
Well, then maybe scale down his workload.
Play 15 plays
If that's
a game.
the problem, like if the issue is Vita Vea is 900 pounds and can't last 46 snaps, then give him 26 and have the 26 plays be all dominant run, like all dominant absolute ragdoll effects.
If I was the coach, I'd tell Vita do that every time.
Right. Like sign somebody off the street that can just play 20 snaps of nothing, and Vita Vea's 26 snaps will be the best 26 snaps in the game.
All right, man. Lions are playing for a chance to go to the Super Bowl.